Oh, in preparation for this video, I did a quick Google search on hip flexor stretches. Now, these images here are probably the normal positions you'd associate with when stretching the hip flexors, but that's not always the case. So from my experience, the majority of people are in this position. So their pelvis is orientated forward, which means the hip flexors here on the front get shorter. Now, you can kind of go down this chicken or the egg scenario, which came first, but a really good rule of thumb to bear in mind is that joints act, muscles react. So most people will be in this flexed position because of sitting too much, because of lack of exercise, the usual reasons. And then the hip flexors will get tight because of that. It's not that the hip flexors have gotten tight, which has then pulled the skeleton forward. Now, bearing in mind, if we're in this position and we're stretching here for God knows how long, it might give a bit of short-term relief, but it's not going to give long-term relief because those people who have been stretching will always be stretching. What we needed to give it to do is the muscles on the posterior here, predominantly the glute max and the upper hamstrings, give them a bit of a stimulus to contract and be able to rotate the pelvis back into its neutral position, freeing up the tension that are now based on the hip flexors on the front. So the next 3 drills are absolutely brilliant drills to help fix that. Lying flat on your back, I want you to flex your feet and then pull your heels towards your bum so you lift your hips up into the air without arching your back. Now from here, I want you to flex and pull one knee back towards you and back down to the opposite side. As you do this, you're going to really feel right through the glutes and the hamstrings, particularly of the standing leg. Keep alternating for 10 reps, but without feeling in the lower back. The minute you start feeling in the lower back, come back down and restart your position. The next exercise here is a progression of the previous, so the setup is really key. With one leg in a 90-90 position against the wall, the other leg slightly more extended out. With the left leg, I want you to think about pulling the heel down towards the floor, whereas the right heel pulling back towards the bum. As this happens, you'll notice the hamstrings switching on and the hips lifting, really firing up the glutes and the hamstrings on both sides. Set up against a couch or a box or a bench with your shoulder blades just against the edge. Now flex your feet again and then pull your heels back towards your glutes so the hamstrings switch on, and as you pull your knees towards each other at the top. Breathe in through the nose and then out through the nose for 5 breaths as you hold this position and then repeat. Now those drills are brilliant for helping you to come from this position here, an anterior pelvic tilt, back into our neutral position, making us nice and strong on the posterior and nice and mobile here on the front. If you're one of those people who've always stretched the hip flexors, you'll have probably noticed that although you might have got short-term relief, long-term nothing ever changes. And like I said earlier, that's because you haven't given enough strength focus to the posterior side of the pelvis, and therefore the skeleton itself is in a position of shortening the front but lengthening the back. So when it comes to stretching, yes, it has its place, but also think about the other things, what's going on, the position of the pelvis, underactive muscles, posture, things like that have a massive impact where stretching doesn't quite cut it. So if you have any questions, queries or comments, hit me up below and I'll be happy to answer. Take care. Bye.